Welcome to the Triangle Spotlight on WQBQ 1410, the voice of Lake County. Get ready to meet some pretty interesting people who are doing surprising things. And now, your host, Suzanne Lynn.
Well, thank you so much for being here. I love our time together, and I love introducing you to friends and authors that you haven't met yet. Maybe you don't know about their books. Alicia McBride is a published author. She wrote the book, I Feel Too Much, a how-to guide for the beginner empath. And an empath basically is someone that just feels like they carry the weight of the world. And she wants to share with her how there is hope on the other side of being it's more than just being a sensitive person. It's feeling other people's pain. So you'll want to be able to listen to that interview. Carol Alexander is another published author on our show today. She wrote At a Moment's Notice, A Witness to Murder. And her father mysteriously disappeared in 1957. It is a fascinating story. He was a witness to murder. And, well, I don't want to give it all away. Rolando Hyman wrote the book Giving My Permission to Grow, 7 Solutions for Personal Development. And Rolando is just a wonderful person. He's just such a joy to talk to. And he's going to share about self-care, how it's necessary for personal development, and using choice to your advantage. And he's just got a lot of wisdom to share with you. J.B. Yanni is going to be a guest on the show today, wrote the books Time Benders and the Machine, Book 1, and Time Benders and the Two Promises, Book 2. And she has a lot to share, specifically with young people, that there are opportunities for great invention and kindness, and how there's nothing stronger than a bond of family. She just talks about the successes and failures, grief and happiness, pain and suffering, all the things that we feel, but she really has a heart for young people. So that's J.B. Yanni coming up. And then also we'll be speaking with J.N. Supermom. She wrote, You're Not Supermom, It's Okay. I think the title pretty much speaks for itself. How many of us have mom guilt when we went back to work, or when we decided to go out with some girlfriends or whatever? I mean, there's so much more. And she has disabled children in the mix too. So J.N. Supermom, author of You're Not Supermom, It's Okay. You're not going to want to miss that. So hang tight. Let's jump in with the first interview, Alicia McBride. Hi, welcome to the show. We're so glad that you're here. I'm going to be speaking with author Alicia McBride today. And Alicia, she's a creative, clairvoyant empath who loves empowering people to heal themselves. She loves writing books, being a mom to 2 very energetic boys. She lives in southeastern PA. She enjoys dancing, digital painting, and I love this one, wearing pajamas in public. I like Alicia already. Alicia's got degrees in psychology and interior design and is a certified yoga instructor. Welcome, Alicia. Glad that you're here.
Hi, thanks. I'm glad to be here.
So I have to ask you right off the bat, an empath. I'm 53, and I'm embarrassed to say that this is the first I've ever heard that name. Is it like, what does it mean? And is it kind of along the lines of empathy?
So it takes empathy to the next level. An empath can not only feel for someone, when you're experiencing empathy, you kind of feel for their situation or whatever someone else is going through.
Okay.
But an empath can actually feel what someone else feels inside their body as their own. So if someone is having a physical pain, or someone is having an emotional pain, or is in distress in some way, an empath can feel that inside their body, just like it's theirs. And a lot of people, especially in the very beginning, they don't know that the pain or trauma or, experience that they're having isn't theirs. It actually belongs to someone else.
That is unbelievable. I know I certainly want to dive more into this, but we're talking today because of your book called I Feel Too Much, a how-to guide for the beginner empath. When you're taking on, it's enough to deal in life with your own pain and your own things that you're dealing with. You're taking on other people's. How does it manifest itself?
That can come about physically, or it could be something emotionally, like stress, anxiety, depression. Those are very common with empaths who you don't know that you're taking on other people's energies, and you don't know that it's not yours, and you don't know how to let it go. So in the book, I talk, in the very beginning, I talk about how to let that go. Because it's not yours, and you don't have to keep it. And even if it is yours, because a lot of people have their own trauma related to to holding trauma from other people. So the beginning of the book talks about how to let that go and how to release that. And the fact that you don't have to keep it. You don't have to take on other people's problems. They are not yours to keep. We also talk a lot in the book about boundaries and setting boundaries and how to create and keep those boundaries. And it's okay. It's okay to have strong boundaries, and it's okay to tell people no. Because I think empaths in general, or sensitive people, they have a really hard time telling people no.
Sure. Because they're sensitive and they want to help,
Yeah.
So are we talking about people that we select, that we choose to have relationships with, that we take on their feelings? Or are you talking about walking into a grocery store and going, I'm getting a bad vibe? I mean, the woman over by the produce, she's going through a lot. To what degree is that?
Both.
Really?
So I think it's easy, again, when you don't know what you're doing, and you don't know you're doing it, it's really easy to take on everybody's energy. Not just the people, who are close to you in your life, but you can walk into the grocery store and you feel everything. Like I have a really hard time, in like consignment shops and thrift stores, because I can, like, there's a general overall feeling of the store, which you get everywhere. You get that, whenever you walk into a building, whether it's a house or, a shop or whatever, there's a general feeling, a vibe of the room. So you get that. And then you kind of feel everybody in it. So if there's a lot of people in the store, like a lot of empaths have a hard time with crowds, being in a crowd, being in a lot of people, in a room with a lot of people, that can be hard. So then you have the vibe of the store, then you have everybody's, own individual thing going on. And then everything in the store has its own energy, and you can feel that too. And if it's like a thrift store, a consignment store, those objects have been owned before. You can then feel the energy from the previous owners, and kind of like if you're very sensitive, or if you're an empath, you can pick up an object and, it has its own energy, and you can feel where it's been, and it's kind of crazy.
So, I mean, there's almost no escaping it, because you can choose to not have relationships with people who bring drama to your life.
Yes.
You can kind of choose which stores you go in that may be the less busier hours or whatever.
Yes.
But man, when you're dealing with, pre-owned things, whether it's a car or items or clothes or whatever, you can't, how do you deal with that on a daily basis? How do you, as an empath, how do you do that?
Well, the very first step in the book is to ground and protect. So you ground your energy. I like visualizations. I'm really into like meditation and visualizations. I'm very visual. I see everything. So that works for me. Kind of seeing tree roots or etheric cords come out of your body and down into the earth, and wrapping around the earth's core and bringing up energy from the earth, all around all around your body to protect you. And the roots are to keep you grounded to the earth. So grounding and protecting is the very first step. And it's important, because otherwise you're just bombarded.
I can imagine. Okay, so we're talking to Alicia McBride. She wrote the book, I Feel Too Much, a how-to guide for the beginner empath. And what are some things besides that? That's a great first step to kind of ground, but what are some other practical things that people are going, oh my gosh, I've never known that there was a name for this, and I get it now? What can they do?
Well, you can practice self-care. I think the biggest thing, after grounding and protecting and setting your boundaries, you can practice self-care, and that means something different for everybody. Like, I like dancing and wearing pajamas in public.
Right. Yes.
That works for me. But I also enjoy taking quiet time for myself. I like meditating. You don't have to like meditating. You don't have to meditate. You can just sit quietly. I really like staring at the ceiling, when your brain is just going so much.
Completely shut down.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, I lay awake and just kind of stare at the ceiling and let it flow. Have your thoughts and just let them go, let them do their thing, and you kind of zone out a little bit. That works for me. I also like taking trips to the beach. That is a big one for me too.
Self-care. That's so important.
Yeah,
and I know
like that.
We're kind of winding down here, but is this something that's pretty common? Is it more common than we know?
So empaths make up about 1 to 2% of the population. And then if you can expand that, and sensitive people make up about 5 to 7% of the population. So it's not super common, but I think maybe the numbers are skewed because people don't know that they are an empath.
Right.
You have no idea until you read something like this.
Yes.
Or, an article online. You don't know.
Alicia, what is it that's the lasting message you want people to know about your book? I Feel Too Much, a how-to guide for the beginner empath.
I want you to know that you can do it. Whatever it is that you're going through, you can let it go, and you can move on, and you can rebuild, and you are supported. There's a whole community of people here who are here for you and can support you.
And real quick, where's your book available?
My book is available online at Amazon and Barnes & Noble and Books A Million. And then it's here, a couple local bookstores, Celestial Portal in Downingtown, Healing Spirit Cafe in Elverson, and at Sylvia Barnhill Designs in South Carolina, Mount Pleasant.
Alicia, thank you for your time. Have a great day.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
It's another Author Spotlight, where we introduce you to authors and books you might not know about. C.L. Barber wrote Keeper of the Keystone, and the night a dad goes missing on his son's first birthday, a triple murder stuns the neighborhood. Well, the tragic event of that night remained clouded in mystery. 14 years later, the arrival of an old family member leads to a 15-year-old Michael and his friends finding themselves in court full of intrigue and desperate struggle for survival. C.L. Barber is going to be a guest on our show next week speaking about Keeper of the Keystone. Jane Burton wrote Toby the Trailer and His Great Adventures, and Jane was just a joy to talk to. She said it inspires children to create their own personal journeys. Jane is the author. She's passionate about children appreciating nature and the wonderful places in the United States that she's actually been. She wants to help children find balance with technology and enjoy the present. M. Curiel wrote the book Sensing Strange and Twisted Travels, and he's going to be a guest on our show next week, a featured guest author, talking about his book. It's a collection of short stories following Don Orville, whose whole life implodes after he helps a blood mage. While out of the ruin, he launches a career as a traveling storyteller by visiting many unusual places in search of new audiences and the stories they share with him. The author loves science fiction and fantasy, and we'll get to hear more about Sensing Strange and Twisted Travels by M. Curiel next week. And Duncan Swindoll wrote the book Absent Friends. Man, this is so exciting. Istanbul on the eve of the millennium, and a pair of British spies are sent to rendezvous with the most valuable asset out of the East since the Second World War. You're going to follow the journey of Scott Hunter. He's a spy. He's suddenly ordered to Hong Kong to find an American journalist and track down the traitor. So you check that out. It's Duncan Swindoll, Absent Friends. And if you're a published author and you'd like to get your free book mention on my radio show, well, feel free to visit my website for more details. It's trianglemedia.biz/authors. Hi, welcome to the show. I am Suzanne Lynn, and with me today, man, you're going to love this author. Her name is Carol Alexander. And Carol, first of all, welcome to the show. I'm glad that you're here, but I love all the birds in the background.
Oh, yes. Singing birds.
Now, listen, your book is called At a Moment's Notice, A Witness to Murder. Can you share the backstory to this?
Yes, I'd love to. I was only 3 years old, and my father mysteriously disappeared, never to be seen again. This definitely uprooted the family and sent us into a tailspin. But we made it through all the obstacles and challenges.
Tell us more about the history of that. How How did he just mysteriously disappear? Was there anything that would lead to cause for him disappearing?
Well, he was working in Manhattan. He witnessed a crime just before it was time to go home, and he recognized it as a connected to the mafia. And he was fearful of even going home and implicating the family. So he took off on a run, just gone. We never heard from him again.
Do you feel like he left on his own will?
You know, we've spent decades wondering about that. His body was never found. The police spent 2 years looking for him. They searched for 13 states. And the only thing they found from him was a vehicle in the Chicago River. So
His vehicle.
his vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
And with his paperwork inside with his name. So we knew it was his. And it's a big question mark.
Carol, this is way back before the days of cell phones and internet. How did your mother know that before he came home, he had witnessed this crime?
Well, she didn't know until the police arrived on her doorstep the next day to ask her questions about his whereabouts. And of course, she didn't know. He wasn't home.
All night, never showed up?
Never showed up.
And there was no reason to think that there were trouble at home, that you would just take off. He witnessed this crime and something terrible happened. And it affected your family up till this day.
That's correct.
What kind of things have you gone through?
Well, for myself, my childhood disappeared. I had to grow up very quickly. At the age of 5, I was taking myself to school from an empty house. I had to dress myself. Didn't really know how to do that, but I muddled through. Walked to school, walked back to home after school at the end of the day to an empty house. My mother was busy working, trying to keep food together for us. And it was very, very difficult. I was bullied terribly by the other children who were all used to having mom and dad at home. I couldn't answer their questions about who he was or where he was. And it led me to becoming very introverted and very antisocial and not speaking to anybody, not participating in class. I was distrustful of everybody.
This must have changed your mother.
Yes. She didn't have time to be emotional. She had only $15 in her pocket, a house that wasn't finished, and 3 small children to take care of. So she had to scramble for work right away, do whatever she could find to do. Ultimately, she found a good job, civil service, and worked her way up through the years. But in the early years, she really struggled.
So as we're talking about your book, what kind of things did you want to put into it? What type of things did you want to leave out? What determined what you felt comfortable talking about?
Well, on my father's side, because I never knew him, and I only had papers to dictate how I wrote, my mother would never discuss it. And upon her death, I found papers from the police, communication from the insurance companies, and different investigators where, aside from the police, my mother was searching for him. So I pieced together a story about his journey after he witnessed that crime. On my mother's side of the story, I was able to be truthful because I lived it and I knew exactly what we all went through. So that was a little easier.
So, I mean, obviously, taking things from your father's side, that is fiction, and you just filled in the blanks based on writing a book.
That's exactly right. Some
How
of that even was true because I did mention he had a girlfriend in California, and that was true.
oh,
When he came back from the war in the Philippines, he stayed in California for 6 months before contacting my mother. So
okay.
some of it is true.
Okay. How important is it to you now, at the age that you're at, after all these years of exhausting attempts? How important is it to get answers? What happened to him? What the truth
Well,
is? Are you ready to put that behind you? Did the book help you to put that to rest?
I think I put that to rest a long time before I wrote the book. I I didn't have enough information to write the book until after my mother passed away. I certainly couldn't answer. I asked her any questions because she wouldn't answer them.
Right.
But I'm comfortable with the way my life turned out. It was difficult for many, many years, but eventually I got through the difficult parts and made a life for myself without fear.
Mhm.
That was a big part all my life, the fear of people.
Is that what you want people to take away from your book? Again, we're speaking with Carol Alexander about At a Moment's Notice, a Witness to Murder, that you want people to stay strong and not walk in fear? What is the message?
I do want people to be strong and they should devote themselves to a goal, whatever that goal or a dream, maybe that would be better. And just step by step, they can move forward and overcome all those obstacles and fears that they might have. They can. They just have to stay focused on their end result. Never give up.
Never give up. Carol, where can people purchase your book?
It's available on Amazon, and it's available hardcover, soft cover, and also in Kindle.
That's wonderful, Carol. Thank you for being an inspiration, for going through things that many of us can't understand, but for writing a book and giving us a place to find out more about what you went through and what many people go through.
Thank you. Difficult times, positive results.
Are you a self-published author that maybe underestimated the challenges of marketing and promoting your book? You spent all that time writing your book. Let me help you get it known. I'm Suzanne Lynn, and I help authors sell more books through video and radio interviews, as well as running commercials for your book on radio stations around the United States and Canada. We have over 300 stations to choose from. We can target exactly who you're trying to reach. We help authors stand out by creating Meet the Author video interviews that shares the heart behind your book and makes an emotional connection like no other promotional piece can. You then use that video on social media, YouTube, your book's website, your Amazon author page, and to send to media and podcast hosts to request interviews. Find out more at trianglemedia.biz. That's trianglemedia.biz. Well, hello. Welcome to the show. Suzanne Lynn here with a very special author. His name is Rolando Hyman. Rolando, I'm glad that you're here today.
I'm excited to be here, Susan, and thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We're here to talk about his book called Giving Myself Permission to Grow, 7 Solutions for Personal Development. Rolando is a psychotherapist. He works full-time, providing support for individuals and families who struggle with things like anxiety, depression, mental health, and addictions. In his spare time, I have heard the word on the street is that he likes to dance to Baby Shark and play soccer with his kids. So I'm glad that you're here, and it's nice to know those fun little things about you too, Rolando.
Yes, it's great to be here, Susan, and I'm really excited to share with the listeners the work that we're doing.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk about your book, Giving Myself Permission to Grow, 7 Solutions for Personal Development. What's the overall message of your book, Rolando?
The overall message of the book, Susan, is to help persons to understand that instead of being stuck in the problem mindset, I try to write the book to help persons to get out of the problem mindset to a solution mindset. And so the idea that's been purported in the book is to help persons to recognize that there's actually ways for you to grow if you look through a different lens.
What kind of lens should they be looking at? Is it a spiritual lens? Is it just a new way of seeing a problem?
It's a combination of all spiritual lens, psychological lens, emotional lens. It's really taking hold of the things that you can do, practical things actually, okay, that you can do that's going to help you to overcome your issues, your barriers, and grow. The idea behind it is growing.
When we're depressed, when we're struggling, when we're stuck in anger, we can't move past solutions. We need help. I mean, you just get so caught up, you can't take the next step because you stay stuck. What are some practical things that we can do? I know that you talk about the 7 solutions for personal development. What are some of those that we can apply to our lives?
And one of the things when you read the book, for example, we talk about things like being persistent and how do you do that? We talk about things like being very deliberate with self-care and how do you do that? We talk about things like of letting go of barriers. How do you overcome barriers and how do you grow from trauma and grief and set goals for yourself? And so the idea that's being purported in the book is pinpointed some practical ways that you can grow and overcome your issues.
Well, I imagine what happens when we get stuck in these issues, we start to neglect ourselves and self-care gets put on the back burner.
Yeah, yes, oftentimes it does. And, most of us are guilty, most of us as professionals, because we pride ourselves in being good at what we do for work, for example.
Right.
We get awards, we boast, we walk around feeling good about it, but we miss how to apply that to our personal lives. So we're flourishing in our careers, but on the inside we're struggling, we're burnt out. So taking the time now to evaluate, which is one of the things that I mentioned in the book, will get us into a better place where we're grounded, where we're balanced, where we're more effective as we serve the community.
Rolanda, one of the things that struck me with your book is that life doesn't have to happen to us. Like, we have control by choices that we make.
Yes. And one of the greatest gifts that you have, Susan, and that I have is the gift of choice. Okay. And oftentimes we don't recognize that. And so we have to capture, how do I use choice to my advantage versus a disadvantage? And it's so often we don't realize that every decision that we make, every choice that we make, it has an impact.
Right.
So we want to pause and evaluate and think before we act versus acting before we think.
I'd love to know the heart behind why you wrote this. I mean, as a psychotherapist, are you just seeing people making the same mistakes and just saying, gosh, there are some principles that would really help as a foundational place for people to start? Because you can't see everybody in the world at your practice, right?
That's correct. Susan, what's powerful is in my own practice, I've come to recognize that sometimes the root cause of many issues is that people feel like there is a problem. Something is not right. Something needs to change. And so the idea came to me as I sat and I'm thinking, problem. Why are we always thinking problem? And so it's from that same mentality I formulated this map. Okay. And that map is also in my book. I formulated this map and I think, how do I push or influence rather my clients to come out of this problem circle and use it to their advantage? And so I built the idea, instead of seeing a problem, seeing persistence as a way out, or instead of seeing a problem, seeing opening up as a way out, instead of seeing a problem, seeing resting and self-care as a way out. Instead of seeing a problem, seek to address psychological barriers and bring some balance. And in the book, I talk about those 4 pillars that sometimes we need to pay attention to: psychological, emotional, spiritual, and social balance, so that we can be effective. And a big piece that I mentioned in it is the idea of maintenance. You know, we're willing to take our cars to get it serviced. We're willing to do rentals on our houses. We're willing to do all these things to be quote unquote happy, but we're not taking the time to work on maintenance of our personal well-being. And that is something that I'm purporting in the book.
So perhaps it's pride that's keeping people from going to get help, where you say humility is a great place to be because you can get help.
You know, Susan, I'm glad you mentioned that, because, you know, the thing that wowed me as I was writing this book and doing research, research has alluded to something that is called intellectual humility. Now, intellectual humility, believe it or not, is said to be that process whereby we sit and ask ourselves, could it be that all the things that I've been taught or all the things that I've been doing are flawed? So then, if they are, what do I do with that?
Right. Oh, that's a big question.
You know, and you know, Susan, the book is also going to be accompanied with a workbook. I've also created a workbook. So each chapter that you read, you can sit and you can reflect, and you can set some goals for yourself by using the workbook to help you to grow.
Wow. Well, unfortunately, the time is going by so fast. What are some parting words that you would like to leave with your listeners and viewers?
You know, one of the exciting and the parting words I'd like to leave is just remember this, that the path, persistent is the path that leads to dreams being fulfilled. Okay? And so if there's something going on and you're thinking in your mind now, this is too much, I've got to, I can't make it. Just remember that each time you walk into your room and you flick the switch to turn the light on, it's because one guy was persistent and stuck to it. That's why we're enjoying the luxuries of the light bulb today.
I love it.
It can become a great change as well.
Rolanda, we are out of time. Rolando Hyman wrote Giving Myself Permission to Grow, 7 Solutions for Personal Development. We've got the website right on the screen where you can purchase that book. Thank you, Rolanda. Have a great day. And welcome to another segment of Authors Spotlight with Suzanne Lynn, where we introduce you to authors and books you might not know about. Like Hope Worthington wrote Shifting Moon. Remy West doesn't know why, but she feels an instant connection to Logan. Little did she know that Logan had been keeping watch on Remy all her life, and the connection she felt had been forged years before when she was just a little girl. So you can check that out by Hope Worthington, Shifting Moon. Raven Diamond wrote FMK Chibi Edition. It's an anime-style book. You can check out this cute slice of life fantasy comic about the funny side of adventures of Silver, Anubis, and Dawn. It's a comic style from Japan. It's animation drawing and normally comedy or lighthearted content. It's geared towards all audiences. The author's been into anime since middle school and is working on other books. And Matthew Moyer wrote The Fractured Flower Pot. I love this one. I had a chance to speak with Matthew, and the book's about 2 brothers, David and Donald, that go with their parents to visit Grandpa. Well, during the visit, they have a little bit of a dilemma where they accidentally break a flower pot. How are they going to solve this problem? See, David and Donald work through the decision-making process. They explore the possible consequences for their choices. Matthew calls this the social emotional learning story, which also includes follow-up questions for families and educators that foster discussion with children about responsible decision-making. And Kimberly wrote a book. I'm going to have to use a little bit of a rhyme because there's a swear word in it, but it's Greta Gar, and it rhymes with a witch. This book is this true story of Kimberly surviving child abuse in the most unthinkable ways. She lost her mom and 2 brothers at their own hands. but she turned that abuse and awfulness into a beautiful story and a beautiful life. She's going to be a featured guest coming up too. That's Kimberly Greta Garr, rhymes with witch. And finally, M.K. Mancuso wrote The River Rising. The River Rising is a dark romance following the story of a young college graduate, River, as she pursues the field of broadcast journalism by day and pays her bills by covertly cam modeling by night. However, when her boss, Jace Bolton, finds out her secret, nothing is going to keep him from getting what he wants. Blackmailed into a relationship with a charming stalker, the whole world thinks she's lucky, but they have no idea what kind of deal with the devil trap she's really gotten herself into. It's available on Amazon Kindle, and again, that's The River Rising by M.K. Mancuso. And if you're a published author you'd like to have a mention on my radio show, you're welcome to find out more. Go to my website at trianglemedia.biz/authors.
Hi, welcome to the show. I am Suzanne Lynn, and joining me today, J.B. Yanni, who's written a couple books we're going to talk about in a series. It's Time Benders and the Machine, Book 1, and Time Benders and the Two Promises, Book 2. I keep trying to memorize that, J.B., and I can't, but it's exciting. I'm glad that you're here.
Sure. Thank you very much for having me today.
JB, let's talk about the books and the series and what they're about.
Okay. So the Time Bender series is about 4 siblings who, after an accident, are in a boarding school where they discover a secret for bending time and traveling through time. And they use that knowledge to do several time traveling adventures into the past and into the future.
So that could be for good or for bad, right?
Absolutely. You never quite know what you're going to get when you go back and fiddle with things, but we all have that urge, I think, to jump back and maybe change something we've done.
Absolutely. Well, the one thing that really sticks out is the one thing they wanted to do was see their parents again, which I think relates to all of us, because we all have people that we wish we could show their grandchildren to and show how things are.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but things happen, like we said, that might not be so positive when you mess around with time travel and time bending.
Yes.
I have to go right into the fact that how realistic, is there an ounce of truth to the possibility? Is there any science behind time bending?
Well, so of course we've pondered that for decades, both in literature and in science. But quite frankly, I really wanted it to be based, just outside the realm of possibilities. So I went and did a lot of research on what they currently think, they being the experts in this field in the science. And they do believe they can theorize that we could do it. Of course, the limitation that we currently have is we don't have a metal protective enough to keep humans safe in it. And we haven't quite got the energy down in order to create the force necessary to move through time at a fast enough rate, either in the past or into the future. But those elements of the science are very much prevalent in the Time Bender series, because I really, although science fiction does require a suspension of disbelief, I really wanted it to feel very real and very possible. So there's a lot of science in terms of, the theories of relativity and the idea that you can't meet yourself and the finite energy in the universe, and going there a couple of times might cause you some trouble. So yeah, I really wanted to include that science in the story.
I know that you're passionate about getting children to read more, but I got to tell you, this is very much for adults too. I mean, I am hooked.
I have had quite a lot of positive feedback from adults, but I think it might be the nostalgia, as the books are set in the 70s. It really is intended for young adults. But, one of the things that I strive for with children and reading is, finding that spark that will interest them. So the history and the science and the math in these stories is really to, explore that for my readers so that they can find something that they go, oh, I'm going to go read more about that. And so that really was one of my goals with the books.
Well, you've said before that you feel that the future of children's success is really based on how much they read.
Absolutely. I really think the key to a person's development, their abilities later in life are born out of the things they learn when they're reading, when they're young. And, so I'm a huge proponent of encouraging kids from a very early age to pick up books and find things in books and read as much as possible. If they can read, they can learn anything. So, that's really been my message throughout my adult life.
And you have such a wonderful positive message, even though some snarky things can happen when you bend time and you go back in time. But their initial reason was to go back to, see their parents, but they end up doing good things, right?
Yes. And, so there is this discussion of loss and grief and how you process that, and whether or not actually, the ability to shift history and bring people back is really the right approach. And perhaps we should learn from that loss and grow stronger from that loss. And in the stories, they really grow very strong as a family and use that strength to support them as they go out and do all kinds of positive things and accomplish great things in the stories.
Family is really important to you, isn't it?
Yes, it is. My family is large and supportive, and they are my strength. And so it was very important to me to celebrate that in the stories as well.
Is there a little bit of your family in these books?
If you know myself and my siblings more personally, you probably will notice elements of our personality and our characteristics in the main characters. I wouldn't say they're exactly based on myself and my siblings, but we're there. Absolutely. Sure. So
I love it. It's interesting because when you talk about time and how it changes things, we just in life cannot go from A to D. We have to go A to B to C because there's lessons all in those steps. So if we remove one of those steps, like being fired from a job, how could that possibly be good? Well, this book kind of explains a little bit.
Yes, it very much, there's very much a message of you can't change the bad without some consequences, and you can't learn and grow stronger without a little bit of that bad, and how to look at it in a much more positive way. So, I think that's a lesson for young and old, because I'm not sure everybody learns that early in life. So,
that's that right.
Yeah,
that is true.
It takes some of us a long time to figure that out.
JB, what's the overall message that you'd want a listener to the interview or a viewer of your interview to know?
Well, I think predominantly it is the strength and the capabilities of young people to accomplish great things, the power of a strong, supportive family, and the resounding core of faith in a person's life. Those are the important messages that I would hope people get from the stories.
Is there a pretty solid faith message in your books?
There is. They're very much, clearly it starts out very much with them questioning their faith as it relates to the loss of their parents. And, a kind of a typical, why did this happen?
You can't relate to that, right?
Yeah. How could this possibly happen? How could it be right for my parents not to be here, kind of message. But through the stories, they really question, not just with their loss, but also with their time travel. Is our time travel messing with God's plan? Is it the right thing to do? And how do we reconcile this plan with free will? And they really kind of play out some fairly typical, I think, teen questions as it relates to faith.
Man, it's going in my head how many times I've tried to take control of a situation and doors get slammed because it's just not supposed to be. Leave it alone.
Yes.
Well, we're talking to JB Yanni about Time Benders and the Machine, Book 1, and Time Benders and the Two Promises, Book 2. And they just sound absolutely amazing. JB, thank you so much. Let us know, how can we get a hold of these books?
Sure. Any online retailer like Amazon, but other online retailers. And my website is jbyanni.com, where there are links to several of those online retailers where you can go purchase the books. And of course, leave your feedback and your questions.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, JB. Thank you. Have a great day. Nice catching up with you.
Thank you.
If you are a published Christian author, you know that letting people know about your book is way more than about just book sales and money. It's about the important message that you have to share about Jesus. The problem is, there's so much negative noise out there that it's hard to break through to let people even know that your book exists. We have a way to really make you stand out from other authors. Hi, I'm Suzanne Lynn, and I help authors sell more books with custom-made, branded video and radio interviews, specializing in Christian authors and books. So let's talk about ways to get your book more visibility. And who knows, maybe you'll even hear an ad running on a station just like this one, promoting your book. Let's set up a time to chat. Wouldn't it be great to have your own video interview that you can share on social media? Visit my website, trianglemedia.biz. Again, that's trianglemedia.biz. Hi, welcome to the show. I am Suzanne Lynn, and today you're going to love my guest author. Her name is J.N. Supermom. That's a pen name. And J.N., welcome, first of all, to the show.
Thank you.
I'm laughing already because your book, it just makes me smile. If you have always wanted to be Supermom and you feel like you fall short like every second like I do, this is a book that you are definitely going to want to read. So you're not Supermom. It's okay. And then I will go on to say, it says Rants of a Foul-Mouthed Mom, Volume 2. So we're going to keep this PG today. But, J.N., it's all about being real and knowing that you fall short as a mom, right?
It is. Yeah. So I'm a mom of 7, 2 who have disabilities. And every day is a challenge. There's always something. It's never a dull moment in my house. And so it really just boils down to honest parenting. That's exactly what it is. There's no lies and all truth with a lot of swear words.
Right. Well, it's frustrating. You know, Jan, what I love about you is that I feel like you represent at least me, and I will say the majority of moms who have something inside, but we put this facade on. We put this fake, cover on. I'm the president of the PTA and I bake cookies every day, like, yeah. Are you kidding me? I'm locking myself in the bathroom with a glass of wine trying to survive,
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. And that's what your book is talking about.
I hide everywhere, actually.
What are some of your favorite hiding places? Let's talk about that.
My bedroom, because my kids know they're not allowed in there. Okay. So they knock, if anything. I do a lot of crafts, so I hide in my garage a lot, like way more than I probably should. And right now I'm actually hiding at my mom's apartment to do this interview.
Jan, we're joking and we're laughing about saying hiding, but the truth is you are finding places for you to take care of yourself as a mom.
Oh, exactly.
And you don't have to apologize for that. We don't need to feel bad or guilty, right?
You don't. If you can't self-care for you, then you're not going to be able to take care of anybody else. I have had points where I've worn myself down to literally nothing and just taken some time and come back stronger than ever, especially this year. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's been very trying. You said you've got 7 children. What's the age difference?
I have to count. So
okay.
17, 15, 14, 2 11-year-olds, a 9-year-old, and a 7-year-old.
Wow. Yeah. Those are all different ages and stages of craziness.
Yes.
What inspired you to write the book? I mean, when did you just go, all right, I know I'm not perfect, but I know I love my kids and I've got something important to share with them. What was that pivotal time?
It happened, I was about a year into my new career as a healthcare aide, and I injured my right knee. I ended up having surgery on it, and I wasn't able to walk or really go to the washroom or anything for about, I would say 6 weeks.
Oh,
so yeah. So 6 weeks of 7 kids terrorizing the house. Everything was a mess. My husband worked full time. It was so frustrating because I'm so used to doing everything. I needed an outlet, and I came to the realization that I'm not a perfect parent, and nobody should ever expect themselves to be a perfect parent. And so my outlet was writing my frustrations, versus screaming and yelling at the kids and getting angry with what I couldn't do. It's not that I didn't want to do it. I couldn't.
right.
So yeah. So You're Not Super Mom, It's Okay was born. I didn't do anything with it for quite some time, probably a year. And then in November of 2019, I ended up injuring my knee a second time.
Oh, gosh.
And had to have a second surgery. So book 2 was finished during that time. And I just kind of took it as a sign that, it's something that I'm supposed to do and put out there. And and so here I am.
Well, you also blog. You're a big blogger. Let's talk about that.
So I do a couple of weekly things that involve it's basically similar to my books, just shorter versions. It's really just a release for me on a weekly basis to, at the end of the week, I'm not working right now, but when I'm working full time, I don't have time to do all the laundry or get the dishes done, so I just blog and literally say, forget it. And,
my kids are healthy and happy. They're healthy, happy, and they know they're loved. And that's really pretty much what you say in your book.
Yeah.
That all the other stuff is insignificant as long as they're healthy, happy, and know that they're loved.
Yeah. And a roof over their head and food in their stomach. And, you're doing good. That's what it boils down to. Yeah.
What do you really hope? Like, if you had one lasting message for someone who reads your book or hears this interview, if you could speak directly to that mom that's sitting there watching this in tears or listening in tears going, I fall short every day. I can't do it. I'm at my wit's end. What would you say to this poor, sweet mom?
Don't be so hard on yourself. There's so many expectations from society and the people around you and everything else. But I think the worst ones are the ones we place on ourselves, about having to do it all and make sure everything's perfect. And that's not how life is. So take a break, breathe, reevaluate if you have to, and go back at it tomorrow. Who cares?
I think we would all be so much more physically and emotionally, mentally healthier if we had that attitude. Thank you so much for sharing that. Again, one more time, I want to share with you. It is So You're Not Super Mom, It's Okay. It's volume 2, but you can also get volume 1, which kind of introduces you to the kids, right? And the whole backstory. Yeah. So I love this one. And it's, you know what? It's an easy, fast read, and you will laugh and probably find yourself in a lot of the pages with that book. So where can we find it? Where can we get the book?
So you can find it on Amazon. It's a Kindle version as well as paperback there. I also sell the paperbacks through myself, my website, all my social medias. I'm very open. Anybody can contact me at any time. So, that's and it's great. A little bit cheaper than Amazon, just because I buy in lots, and then it doesn't cost as much to ship.
Sure. Yeah. I think you are super mom. Thank you so much. Thanks for your time today, Jane. It was a joy to talk to you. We'll talk to you again soon, okay?
Sounds good. Thank you.
Now, don't go hurting yourself so that you have a volume 3. We don't want that to happen. That's how your first 2 happen, okay? Stay healthy.
I'm working on it.
Take care.
Thanks.
Thanks for joining Suzanne Lynn for the Triangle Spotlight every Monday here on WQBQ 1410, the voice of Lake County. If you want to be featured on the show or have a business you want spotlighted, just email Suzanne at suzanne.lynn@trianglemedia.biz or call 352-508-5442. That's 352-508-5442. God bless you this week.
The opinions and views stated by various contributors to this radio show and radio programs are not to be considered as endorsements by Floyd Media Communications, WQBQ 1410 AM, its staff, owners, or advertisers. This radio show is intended for public entertainment and education to help inform the public about various issues. WQBQ 1410 AM does not confirm nor deny the validity or accuracy of the information contained within the broadcast.